Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the CSTV. I'm your host, Kathleen Egal Toto, Madam CS, and this is the Women Warrior of Africa. Stay tuned and have a true and real. Kindly remember to subscribe, like, share, and comment on this video. The Amazon of Dohomey Kingdom, West Africa, present-day Benin. It was an all-female military battalion that was entrusted with safeguarding the Dohomey Kingdom, swiftly and successfully going to war to an extent of expanding the Kingdom of Dohomey at that particular time, the 18th century and the early 19th century. However, behind this all-female military battalion that has been christened the epitome of women's participation and power when it comes to fighting and security, lies a story. A story of the first Amazon of Dohomey, Queen Tassi Hangbe. The CSTV goes back to history, pre-colonial West Africa, to bring you her story. Who was Queen Tassi? How did she come to power? And more importantly, what was her legacy throughout her 3 years reign in the Dohomey Kingdom, West Africa, present-day Benin? Stay tuned and let's have this conversation raw and real. Welcome back. I'm your host, Kathleen Egal Toto, Madam CS, and this is the story of Queen Tassi of Dohomey Kingdom, present-day Benin. As I've always told you, when the history of Africa, especially pre-colonial Africa, is written, it is written with women being left at the periphery. We had great women leaders, great women, significant figures in the society, but because of one reason or another, their stories never found their way to the mainstream written history, and therefore their stories tend to be forgotten. Among such great figures was Queen Tassi Hangbe of Dohomey Kingdom, present-day Benin. Who was Queen Tassi? Queen Tassi was born in Dohomey, present-day Benin. Dohomey was one of the largest kingdoms in West Africa. And now, a lot is not known concerning her childhood and how she was brought up. But we get her story as from the time she entered into power. Apparently, sources indicate that she had a twin brother, and her father, King Hangbe, was the founder of Dohomey Kingdom. That's what is known about her. The father as the founder of the Dohomey Kingdom, and her having two brothers, one who was her twin and the other one who was younger. Now, in 1708, his brother, who had taken over the father, Akaba, died. And when the brother was dying, Queen Tassi at that particular time was just in the field. So, when the brother died, that is in 1708, Queen Tassi was secretly crowned the head of the military unit in the Dohomey Kingdom. And when she came back, she was publicly pronounced the Queen of Dohomey. It is important to note that Queen Tassi did not stay in power for long. her reign was only for 3 years, because later his brother Agacha overthrew her. Remember, when she became queen, Agacha was still young, and the twin died. So after 3 years, the younger brother overthrew her. A lot has not been said of what happened of Queen Tassi after her overthrow as the queen of the Dohomey kingdom. But one legacy remains of this particular woman in the history of Benin. She was the founder, or she constituted the largest all-female militant battalion in the Dohomey kingdom. This battalion came to be called the Amazons of Dohomey kingdom. These women were very special and were very significant in this particular kingdom. One, they received their military training right from childhood. Two, they had the vows of celibacy. What does this mean? They were not married or allowed to perform wifely roles so long as they were in the battalion. They also lived in the palace with the king. And all the time, the king or the palace servants rang bells to alert the public that the Amazons are around, because the public had to bow down when the Amazons are passing. Queen Tassi is known as the first Amazon, because even at the time when she was being secretly announced as the head of the military, she was in the field fighting. And therefore, when she took power as the queen, she urged women for two things. One, to participate in farming, and two, in fighting. These two things at the time in the Dohomey kingdom were a reserve of men. But Queen Tassi broke the boundaries and challenged women to engage in these two activities. As a role model for what she advocated for, Queen Tassi constituted the Amazon of Dohomey. And this group was very swift, competitive, aggressive, and fiery. It was such a wonderful, successful battalion that even the kings who came after Queen Tassi used it for military operations to expand the Dohomey kingdom. For example, you would realize that when King Gesso came into power, he integrated the Amazon officially into the Dohomey army. And these women were even feared by the Europeans, because they even beheaded their enemies. They were great women whose purpose first was to showcase that they can outshine men in war. And indeed, sources from the Dohomey kingdom, present-day Benin, indicate that they were more successful at war than their male counterparts. The Amazons of Dohomey came to an end in 1892 when the Dohomey kingdom fell. So as you can see, it is a group that was constituted by one woman queen, and that served for a long time as a protective and defense unit of a great kingdom, bringing it into victory all the time they went into war. Today, the Amazons of Dohomey kingdom stands as an epitome of women emancipation and power in the world of war insecurity. For a long time, they have been forgotten. But the movie Black Panther was very significant in highlighting their role and their prowess at war. Queen Tassi's statue remains in Benin, celebrated as one of the greatest queens that Benin ever had in its history. The woman who single-handedly pulled an all-female military battalion, Queen Tassi Hangbe. Although her story has faded away because nothing much has been documented, her statue remains as a true example of the power of women in pre-colonial West Africa. The CS TV, Madam CS Agal Toto. Stay tuned. See you next time as we look at another African queen. Thank you.